She looked nervous the moment she walked in, shoulders tight, eyes down, hands shaking whenever someone spoke too loud. To them, she was the easiest target in the room. So they pushed her during drills, mocked her when she flinched, filmed her reactions for laughs. And when the gym emptied that night, they closed the doors behind her and told her it was just a confidence drill. They thought she was scared. They thought she was harmless. They thought they knew exactly who they were dealing with. But the girl they harassed all week was hiding a past they were never prepared to face. And when it surfaced, everything changed in seconds. Now, before we show you the moment her Navy SEAL training came out, drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from, hit like, and subscribe with the bell icon turned on. Because today wasn't about nerves. It was about the mistake they made when they underestimated the wrong girl. The fog rolled in low across the concrete apron of the Joint Maritime Interoperability Facility, curling between the hulls of docked patrol cutters and seeping through chain link like smoke from a silent fire. Salt water mixed with diesel and chilled iron, the kind of cold that soaked into your sleeves before you noticed. Ensign Talia Rourke stood alone at the edge of the muster platform, backpack hugged close to her ribs, thumbs locked beneath the strap, tan uniform crisp, boots spotless, hair pinned tight. But it wasn't regulation that made her stand out. It was the stillness. She hadn't spoken since check-in. A few others murmured near the portable heater, mostly Marines from Bravo rotation, a couple cross-rate Navy techs. Talia kept her eyes on the ground just ahead of her boots. Every few seconds, her fingers twitched. Tap, tap, tap against the webbing of her pack, like a rhythm she couldn't stop. No one greeted her. No one asked why she hadn't made small talk. Quiet types were rarely welcomed here. They were watched. Sergeant Kellen Shaw noticed her first. Mid-30s, Marine instructor, broad frame, barrel laugh. He leaned against a stack of weighted gear crates with a plastic coffee lid balanced on one knee. Jesus, he muttered. She looks like she's about to pass out. Beside him, Corporal Finn Jace, younger, smug, ex-wrestler build, followed his gaze. Did she get lost on the way to admin? She logistics? No idea, but God help us if she's supposed to handle gear. Just behind them, Petty Officer Riker Vale cracked a knuckle without looking up. Looks like she's already bracing for impact. Give her a week before she folds. They didn't whisper. They didn't need to. Talia heard every word, said nothing. Her posture shrank further, shoulders curling in, chin slightly dipped. To them, she looked like a nervous wreck, maybe new to uniform, maybe too soft, maybe on her way out. But they didn't see the things she noticed. The mat spacing in the practice annex, 6 feet centerline to wall. The scuff pattern near the weight sleds, recently used, possibly for aggressive drills. The exit doors, 2 hinges misaligned. The instructor posted at the gate, saluted 4 beats late, and had a bootlace dragging, all of it logged, none of it visible on her face. Rourke T., the admin petty officer called out, assigned to Basic Physical Integration Assessment, 0800 rotation, Shaw and Jace. Shaw smirked. Perfect. Talia gave the faintest nod. Not enough to be called confident, just obedient. She turned, adjusted her shoulder strap, and walked toward the prep tunnel without a sound. Her boots made no echo. Her fingers stopped tapping. Behind her, no one noticed the way her eyes tracked every reflective surface. Because nervous girls don't usually map the room. And no one here had ever asked what the quiet ones used to do before they got transferred. The gym smelled like sweat and adhesive tape. Rubber mats overlapped beneath flickering overhead fluorescence. The walls scuffed from years of thrown elbows and missed blocks. A battered clipboard hung by the entrance with today's schedule scratched in faded marker. Physical integration, AROT. B. Instructors Shaw, Jace. Talia stood near the back wall, arms folded tight. Her frame nearly lost among the others already paired off for drills. The instruction was simple, push and redirect exercises. 2-person test of balance, weight control, reaction timing. Basic, supposedly. Ensign Rourke, Shaw called out, already smiling. Step up, you're with me. Several trainees paused their stretches. Pairing an instructor with a new arrival wasn't standard. Talia's shoes squeaked as she stepped forward. Her hands trembled slightly as she slipped off her uniform jacket. Her undershirt sleeves were rolled neatly. No scars, no tattoos, no hint of anything hardened. Shaw bounced on the balls of his feet, loosened his shoulders theatrically. Let's walk through a low-speed hip sweep. I'm the aggressor. You're the resistor. Got it? Talia nodded. Not quite eye contact, just functional. He moved quickly, too quickly. His hands didn't guide her gently into position. They gripped and twisted, pulling her across his hip with the momentum of someone showing off. She hit the mat with a hard slap of impact. No head bounce, no break, just side and shoulder, driven down with more force than regulation required. The gym chuckled. Jace, standing a few feet off, grinned and leaned toward Vale. She's shaking already. Talia pushed herself up. Quietly, carefully, brushed her hair back without a word. All right, Shaw announced. Everyone partner up. Talia paired off with a tall Navy reservist who seemed unsure whether to go easy. She moved slowly. Every grip looked a half beat late. Her footwork lagged by just enough to appear inexperienced. But no one noticed how perfectly she repositioned each time after a slip, or how she never repeated the same mistake twice. Jace strolled past her mid-drill. No, no, he called. Lighter. You're gripping like you're scared of your own hands. Talia blinked, released her partner's arm with a half-apology gesture. You can speak up, you know, he added, circling her like a hawk. We don't bite. Then louder. Actually, maybe she's mute. Anyone check her paperwork? A few smirks nearby. Vale held his phone at thigh level, camera angled up like he was capturing casual footage. For training review, he said later. Talia didn't react. Her shoulders stayed rounded. Her eyes didn't rise. Only one person didn't laugh. Lance Corporal Naomi Pierce, short and wiry with sharp green eyes, stepped beside Talia after drills, quietly corrected her grip, showed her how to center her feet without splaying out. No commentary, just help, Talia murmured. Thanks. Naomi looked at her for a long moment. You okay? Talia nodded. I'm used to it. Shaw clapped his hands as drills ended. Wrap it up. If she can't get her nerves under control, logistics should keep her behind a desk. The others laughed. Talia picked up her jacket, holding her wrist with the opposite hand, the one he'd jarred earlier. She walked off with her head slightly lowered, but her eyes weren't down. They were measuring the distance between the nearest wall and the mat, just in case. The mess hall was never quiet, even when it was nearly empty. Trays clattered, forks scraped across aluminum. Somewhere behind the counter, a malfunctioning cooler hummed like a broken propeller. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead with an uneven flicker, adding a low-grade tension to the room's already bitter energy. Talia sat at the edge of a long table alone. Her tray held a slab of grilled chicken, a scoop of mashed starch, and something vaguely green. None of it had been touched. She sipped water like she was counting the seconds between each swallow. Her posture was the same, closed, protective. Backpack looped around her feet, shoulders tucked. Her eyes hovered over her fork, but they weren't focused. They were listening. 3 seats down, Shaw's group had gathered again. Loud, casual, careless. They didn't lower their voices. They never had. She flinched when I raised my voice, Shaw said, stabbing a plastic fork into his potatoes. She's not built for field rotations. Jace leaned back with a grin. Probably never seen a fight. Can't even hold eye contact without blinking like she's under interrogation. Imagine her on a shipboarding, Vale added. She'd faint on the ladder. The 3 of them laughed, not cruelly, casually, like she was barely even present. Jace tore a napkin into strips, rolled it into a loose knot, and flicked it across the floor. It landed near Talia's boot. She didn't move. Then, just barely, her foot slid back under the bench. A tiny, involuntary recoil. Got her, Jace smirked. Vale raised his phone again, angling it discreetly as if filming his own plate. Might start a compilation, he joked. Call it Jamif's most nervous newbie. She'd go viral, Shaw chuckled. $10 says she cries in a drill before Friday. Someone nearby laughed. Talia reached for her tray. Her fingers trembled, not violently, but just enough to be visible. She steadied herself by gripping the edge. That's when Naomi stepped in. She approached from the other side of the room, tray still in hand. "That's enough," she said plainly. Shaw looked up, chewing. "Relax, Pierce. We're just helping her feel welcome." "By filming her? By baiting her?" Jace shrugged. "We're coaching." "No, you're not." Talia finally spoke, barely above a whisper. "It's fine." Naomi turned to her. "You shouldn't be used to this." Talia gave a faint smile, one that didn't touch her eyes. "It's easier when they think I'm weak." Naomi frowned, confused, like something didn't add up, but she couldn't see why. The corridor outside the gym echoed with the clatter of mop buckets and the hiss of steam from the laundry vents. Talia passed by the auxiliary gear closet and paused. Inside, Shaw's voice was low but unmistakable. Confidence-building drill. "Let her run the gauntlet. She needs to feel pressure." Jace. "Unofficial?" Shaw. "No witnesses, no foul, just a nudge out of her shell." Talia didn't step inside, didn't confront them, just listened, then pressed her fingers into her palm. Tight. The tremble stopped, and she kept walking. The gym lights buzzed with a hollow whine. It was after hours. No blaring music, no echoed cadence drills, no shouting over impacts. Just a wide, dimly lit space with patches of matting in the center, an idle clock ticking above the weight rack, and 3 silhouettes, waiting like they had nowhere else to be. Talia entered from the side corridor, her steps soft on the tile. Her hair was pinned as always, her boots laced clean. She paused at the threshold, gaze flicking over the room. Shaw, Jace, and Vale stood near the mat. Shaw greeted her with a grin that tried to look friendly and failed. "Hey, Rourke, quick drill before we call it. Just need another log entry for rotation hours." Talia hesitated. Jace tilted his head. "Come on, don't make it weird." Her fingers tightened briefly around her sleeve. She stepped forward, slowly, like someone trying not to trip over themselves. But from down the hall, Naomi had seen her enter. She leaned around the equipment rack, eyes narrowing. When she noticed the 3 men already inside, her body shifted, alert, skeptical. She moved closer, halfway down the corridor. "What's this?" she called. Jace turned. "Helping the newbie get over her nerves." She agreed. Naomi looked directly at Talia. Talia's voice barely carried. "No, thank you." The words were soft, but clear. Naomi stared for a second longer, then nodded and turned, lingering near the water station just outside, close enough to hear if something went wrong. Inside the gym, the air felt heavier. Vale walked to the door and eased it shut. Not locked, not sealed, just enough to separate this moment from whatever happened next. Shaw clapped his hands together. "All right. Center mat, Rourke, controlled pressure drill, no hits, just contact guidance. It's how we toughen up soft trainees." Talia stepped onto the mat with deliberate care. Her shoulders were rolled forward, arms loose at her sides, thumbs tucked awkwardly. She looked nervous, fragile, like she didn't want to be there. Shaw circled left. Jace stretched his shoulders. Vale lingered behind the cam rack, phone low, already recording. Talia stood in the center, feet slightly turned inward, elbows drawn tight, no protest, no defiance. She looked exactly like the nervous girl they'd been mocking all week. But her eyes moved, from Shaw to the exit door to the corners of the mat. She registered the distance to the wall, the line of light beneath the door, Naomi's shadow beyond the frosted glass panel. She clocked their stances, spacing, breathing. Her chest rose slowly, then fell. She nodded once, hands loose. "All good?" Shaw asked with a smirk. She nodded again. He stepped forward, raising both hands in exaggerated caution. "We'll take it easy. Just want to see how fast you react. Might help you feel less like a statue next time we do drills." Talia didn't answer. She just looked down at the floor for a second, as if waiting for something to finish counting down inside her mind. Then she raised her chin just slightly, waiting. It started harmless enough. Shaw reached out, pressing both hands lightly against Talia's shoulders, a classic stability probe. She swayed, not much, just enough to look off balance, the kind of wobble instructors like to exploit. He stepped in again, firmer this time. His palm landed higher, just below her collarbone. "Brace better," he muttered. She nodded timidly. From behind, Jace walked a slow, deliberate circle. He tapped her shoulder once, then again from the other side. Not hard, just enough to make her flinch. Talia flinched both times. "See that?" Jace said, grinning. "Still jumpy." "Just nerves," Shaw added. "We'll wear it out of her." Vale recorded steadily, silent, but watchful. The red blink on his phone barely visible. Shaw moved again, a sudden shove this time, low in the ribs, pretending to reset her balance. She stumbled back a step, recovered, shoulders now tighter, head angled downward. "You good?" Shaw asked, mock sincere. "Yes," she whispered. He stepped closer. "Then let's fix that grip." He grabbed her wrist, not gently. His thumb pressed over her tendon, fingers twisting under. It was too much, not instructional. His hand lingered, holding her arm longer than necessary, adjusting nothing. Talia tried to pull back. He didn't release. Jace chuckled behind her. "You're too stiff. Try letting someone lead for once." The grip tightened slightly. Vale kept filming. Talia's voice came soft, breathy. "Please stop." Shaw's smile spread. "See? She can speak louder," Jace added. "Bet she'd scream if we really pushed." The sentence sat in the air like a bad taste. Even Vale's smirk wavered. Outside the gym, Naomi shifted. She'd heard it. That line. Her boot scraped faintly on the tile as she took a half step toward the door. Inside, Talia didn't move, didn't flinch. Her breathing deepened. Not shallow panic, but a controlled intake, like someone adjusting to deeper water. Shaw still had her wrist. Talia looked down at it, head tilted, as if inspecting a splinter. Her free hand flexed once at her side. Her shoulders loosened, but not in surrender, in resolve. She looked up, not at Shaw's eyes, but past him, past the mat, past the door, then met his gaze directly for the first time. Let go. It wasn't loud, it wasn't angry, but it wasn't soft either. Shaw blinked. "What?" Talia repeated, steady. "Let go of my arm." Behind them, Jace's smirk faltered. Vale lowered his phone an inch. Shaw squeezed harder, just enough to reassert control. That's when Talia's entire frame shifted, subtly, almost imperceptibly. Her feet recentered, knees unlocked, shoulders straightened. Her trembling stopped. There was a new silence in the room, not hesitation, preparation, and as Shaw adjusted his stance again, oblivious to what had just changed, Talia Rourke stopped being the nervous girl and started being the one who wasn't going to ask again. Shaw stepped in to reestablish contact. A mock grab meant to pull her forward like a practice dummy. It was casual, careless. His hand shot toward her upper arm, fingers outstretched. He never reached her. Talia's body moved with a precision that didn't belong to someone nervous. In a single fluid breath, she pivoted off her rear foot, rotated her forearm, and broke Shaw's grip with a counter-torque compression. It wasn't violent. It wasn't angry. It was efficient. Something perfected through repetition, far beyond a training manual. Shaw blinked, recoiling a half step. "What the hell?" Jace, sensing the tension, stepped in from her left. Talia didn't turn to face him. She shifted her weight, dropped her center, and redirected his arm past her hip. A soft trap that forced his momentum wide and sent him stumbling forward. He didn't fall, but his balance was gone. Vale slowly lowered his phone, his smirk vanishing. This wasn't flinching. This wasn't uncertainty. This was muscle memory. Shaw surged again, now embarrassed, jaw clenched. He lunged with a tight grip aimed at her shoulder, a strong man's move. Talia slipped under, pivoted behind him in one seamless arc, and locked his shoulder in a textbook-sealed joint immobilization. A torqued wrist behind his spine, elbow pinched between her forearm and ribs, one foot behind his heel, her chin just above his scapula. Not painful, but absolute. "Stop touching me," she said quietly. The tone froze the room. Not because it was loud, but because it was final. Shaw grunted, trying to twist. She adjusted. No strain, no struggle. His body did exactly what she dictated. The tension in his knees betrayed a single truth. If she wanted, He'd be on the mat in half a second. Jace didn't move. Vale took a step back. Talia released Shaw gently, deliberately. She didn't push him. She let him recover his footing like it was a gift. He staggered one step forward, completely off center. Her posture never changed. Back straight, weight balanced, expression unreadable. Outside, Naomi pushed the door half open. Her eyes swept the scene, 3 men off balance, 1 woman standing calm. Her hands hovered near the door frame, unsure if she was about to walk into a full fight or the aftermath of one. Inside, no one spoke. Even the buzz of the overhead lights felt quieter. Talia turned slowly to face them all. No anger, no adrenaline, no wide-eyed escalation. Just complete control. "End the drill," she said. Shaw opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Jace didn't even try. Vale glanced down at his phone screen, still recording, and slowly tapped the screen dark. Naomi stepped in fully now, voice low. "Everything okay?" Talia didn't answer. She didn't have to. Because the girl they thought was weak, the one they planned to humiliate, had just peeled back the mask, and behind it was someone trained to end fights before they even started. Shaw came back swinging, not in anger, in panic. He charged with an open-palmed rush, body weight thrown forward like he'd forgotten this was supposed to be a drill. His feet pounded across the mat, hands wide, a grappler's gambit designed to overwhelm. Talia didn't flinch, didn't backpedal, didn't raise her fists, didn't posture. She stepped into him. In one seamless motion, she rotated her torso, brought her left forearm up tight to her center line, and struck the base of his clavicle with a precise downward stop. Not a punch, not a shove. A calibrated seal elbow stop used to halt momentum without breaking bone. Shaw's breath left him in a short, shocked wheeze. His left arm went limp. The impact had jarred his brachial nerve, not enough to injure, but enough to disable. He dropped to one knee, blinking through the pain. "Still think I scare easy?" Talia asked. Not taunting, just confirming. Jace lunged next, all fury, no form. He aimed high, too high. A wild right hook meant to clip her temple. Talia ducked, pivoted, let his momentum pass. Then she reached up, caught his forearm mid-swing, and redirected him clean into the padded wall. The sound of his body slapping against it echoed hard in the empty gym. He collapsed to a knee, dazed, gasping. Vale hesitated. She turned to him. He bolted forward, but it was too late. She dropped to the mat, rolled forward between his legs, and as he twisted to track her, she swept one foot behind his knee and twisted her hips upward. Vale fell backward with a thud, arms flailing. Talia didn't hurt him. She didn't need to. She ended him. One move, full stop. The 3 men now sat or sprawled on the mat, stunned, silent. Not injured, but completely outmatched. Talia stood in the center, shoulders square, breath steady. No shaking, no fury, just clarity. Shaw looked up, eyes wild. "Who the hell are you?" Talia answered softly. "Someone who asked you to stop." The words cut sharper than any strike. Naomi stood at the door now, fully inside, eyes wide. She hadn't moved since the first takedown, but her posture said everything. Shock, pride, and a sudden understanding of who she was really looking at. The gym was dead silent. Even the ceiling fan seemed to stall. Jace rolled onto his elbows. Vale groaned and rubbed his neck. Shaw slowly pulled himself upright, but his dominant arm still dangled slightly, nerve suppressed and useless. None of them spoke. They couldn't. Talia stepped off the mat with no fanfare, no gloating, just calm, and as she passed Naomi, she whispered without stopping, "They thought fear meant weakness." Naomi blinked. "It didn't." Talia nodded once and walked out of the gym, the nervous girl no longer anywhere to be found. Naomi was already behind her, not asking questions, just walking alongside like someone who understood too much. Too late. Neither of them spoke until they reached the admin corridor. Naomi broke the silence. "What do I do with this?" She held up Vale's phone, now confiscated, and paused on the last frame. 3 men stunned on the mat, 1 woman walking away. Talia answered without slowing. "Turn it in." The duty officer on call logged the device, flagged the footage, and initiated Protocol 14C. The automatic review sequence triggered anytime unsanctioned contact occurred during off-schedule sessions. It was no longer private. In the gray-paneled admin annex, Talia sat alone at a narrow table. Her hands were folded in her lap, palms facing down. No attorney, no advocate, just her, quiet, still, and calm. The door opened. Captain Rowan, the facility's commanding officer, stepped inside. Mid-50s, weathered, pragmatic. The kind of man who'd seen enough of everything to know when the lines were crossed, and when they were obliterated. Behind him came Commander Ellis, Operations Review, and a civilian JAG liaison already activating the recorder on the table. Captain Rowan sat across from her. "Ensign Rourke," he said, voice even. "We've reviewed the footage, all of it." Talia didn't speak. Commander Ellis tapped the table once. "You engaged in physical combat with 3 fellow service members outside of scheduled operations. Care to explain?" "I was provoked," she replied calmly. "They initiated contact. I ended it." "Any injuries?" "No permanent damage. Temporary suppression only. Controlled response." Rowan squinted. "That maneuver on the Marine sergeant, shoulder nerve pinch, radial brace dislocation, that's not basic training material." Talia reached slowly into her side pocket and slid forward a sealed envelope. Rowan opened it. Inside, her billet file. Partial clearance, Joint Ops Directive. Authorized for disclosure only if her safety or chain of command integrity was compromised. One paragraph was highlighted. Naval Special Warfare Support Group 2. Forward Deployment. Combat Medic. Shadow Rotation Clearance 471. Rowan read it twice, then looked up, expression unreadable. "You served under NSYC?" She nodded. 2 years. Embedded Medical Advisory. Not combat flaggable under my cover billet. Field capable, fully certified. Ellis exhaled sharply. "So why didn't you say anything?" "I wasn't assigned here as a SEAL," she said. "I was assigned here to learn." The JAG officer glanced toward Rowan, then leaned forward. "This isn't the first issue with Sergeant Shaw or Corporal Jace. We've got 2 prior harassment inquiries buried under peer resolution memos." Rowan frowned. "They were never escalated because no one fought back." Now someone had. Rowan closed the file and tapped it once. Effective immediately, Sergeant Shaw and Corporal Jace are suspended pending administrative separation. All instructor status revoked. Petty Officer Vale is reassigned without prejudice. He paused. "And you, Rourke?" Talia stood. "Request reassignment to operational oversight, somewhere the standards still matter." Rowan stared at her for a long beat and then nodded. "You'll have it." She walked out before anyone could offer praise, and no one dared stop her. The docks were empty by sunset. Light stretched low across the water, pulling shadows long across the concrete. The patrol boats bobbed in place, their hulls gently knocking against rubber bumpers. A gull wheeled once above the cutter flags, then disappeared into the horizon's haze. Talia Rourke stood at the edge of the loading ramp, boots planted just before the yellow line, wind curling around the collar of her fleece. Her hair was down now, not messy, not styled, just natural. She wasn't doing anything, just watching the tide come in. Behind her, quiet footsteps approached. Naomi Pierce didn't say anything at first. She came to stand just beside her, hands tucked into her sleeves. The silence wasn't awkward. It was earned. "You could have destroyed them," Naomi finally said. Talia didn't turn. "I didn't need to." Naomi exhaled through her nose. "You didn't even hesitate." "I waited," Talia said. "For what?" "For them to show me who they really were." Naomi looked down. "You knew it would go that far?" Talia's eyes tracked the waterline. "They wanted to make me a problem so they could justify breaking me. That's what happens when people mistake silence for submission." Naomi hesitated. "Why hide it? The patch, the background, the whole thing?" Talia shrugged. "Because if I walked in wearing my past, it would have just been a different kind of target. I wasn't here to prove anything. I was here to see if I could still start from zero and keep my calm." A small group of trainees jogged past in the distance. 2 of them nodded in Talia's direction. One gave a subtle salute, nothing performative, just acknowledgement. Naomi saw it too. They know now. Talia gave a small smile. Then I guess I'm not nervous anymore. The breeze picked up. Talia turned, slinging her pack over her shoulder. Tomorrow? Naomi asked. I'll be here, Talia said. But maybe this time, not in the corner. They walked off together, not quite side by side. Talia slightly ahead. Not because she needed to lead, but because for the first time since arriving, she wasn't trying to disappear. Behind them, the sun dipped below the horizon, and whatever tension had followed her through those doors on day one, it didn't follow her out. If someone pushed you past your limit, would you stay silent? Or let your training speak for you? And do you believe that calm control is more powerful than raw strength? Drop your answers in the comments. We rate every single one. Then go ahead and hit that like button, tap subscribe with the bell icon turned on, and share this video with someone who still underestimates quiet people. Your next story should already be up on screen. Go watch it now and we'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place.